Hi, second graders. I have another nonfiction book to read to you today. Remember, nonfiction means it's real and teaches us something. The book this week is called Night Sky by Stephanie Warren Drimmer. Do you already know anything about the night sky? I'm pretty sure you've learned something about the nighttime sky in science already this year. So I'd like you to pause the video now and tell someone at home something that you know about the night sky. Okay, I'm going to take a sneak peek and make a prediction about what the author might teach us. I'm going to look for text features too. So let's see. We have our table of contents right at the beginning. I see some headings there for chapters called Flying Objects, Who's Out There, Twinkle Twinkle. Let's see, it looks like a night sky to me. Go. See lots of diagrams and things that I'm pretty sure are going to be helpful to me. Here I see a diagram of a solar eclipse. So right here I actually predict that we're going to learn something about what a solar eclipse is and how it can be seen or shown in the night sky. Let's see. Here's that twinkle twinkle page that I saw in my table of contents. Some more. I see a caption here, another caption here, the heading, flying objects. Remember, we always notice those text features that help us get more information. I see planets here. We read a book about planets. Let's see if it teaches us the same thing there. All right, so let's begin reading. This book is called Night Sky by Stephanie Warren Drimmer. Again, here's our table of contents. Look up. When the sun goes down, dots of light fill the night sky. Some of them move, others are still, some twinkle, others don't. Have you ever wondered what they are? Did you notice that the author didn't just tell us what we were going to read about? She gave us some clues and then asked us a question first. This is a great thing for writers to do too in their own stories. Alrighty, this one is called Earth's Sidekick. On most nights, one object looks bigger and brighter than everything else. It's the moon. The moon is a ball of rock that orbits Earth. It looks so big and bright because it's only about 240,000 miles from Earth. Compared with other objects in the night sky, that's pretty close. And over here, remember these from our other books? These are words that are lingo for our main idea. So this one right here is orbit, to move in a path around another object in space. So I'm going to add my stop and jot here so I remember this important word in my text, in my book. Alrighty. So this page does not start with a new heading, so it must still be talking about what we talked about over here, the moon. Because the heading is here, that tells us the things that we're going to learn about. And there's no heading here, so it's got to be continuing. Let's see. Sometimes the moon looks like a circle. Other times it's a curved sliver. That's because of the moon's orbit. Remember, orbit was one of our lingo words on the last page. That means to move in a path around another object in space. Light from the sun reflects off the moon, making it look bright. As the moon orbits Earth, we see different amounts of the lit up side. This makes the moon appear to change shape. So I'm going to stop and think right now about what this is teaching me, because what I'm hearing is that the moon doesn't actually change shape. But when we see it at night, it looks like it's changing shape. But what it is it's orbiting and it's rotating. Let's see where it said that. It's rotating around the Earth. So we see just the parts that are lit up. So sometimes it looks a little bit different depending upon how much it is lit up. And you can see by the picture up at the top, it shows you all the different moon phases up there. And the caption says, it takes the moon about 1 month to travel all the way around Earth. At the full moon, the side facing Earth is fully lit up by the sun. At the new moon, the side facing away from Earth is lit up. That's when we don't see anything. Okay. And then I do see another lingo word here. It says reflect, and that means to bounce back from a surface. So I'm going to add my sticky to remind myself of that important word for the night sky lingo. Okay. So I want you to make sure that you are stopping and thinking about what we're learning, which is what I just did. I kind of went back over this page to talk about what I had just learned. It helps it stick in your brain when you do that. Okay. Still no heading on this page. So was I correct on the last page that it didn't change to a different topic? It wasn't talking about something different? Yep, it was still the moon. So this must still be about the moon too. Let's find out. Sometimes as the moon orbits, Earth lines up between the sun and the full moon. When that happens, Earth blocks most of the sun's light from reaching the moon. The moon looks dark orange-red. This is called a lunar eclipse. Up here, here's one of our lingo words, lunar, having to do with the moon. And here is a caption, or a lunar eclipse over Perth, Australia. Here's what I was talking about when I was doing my sneak peek here. I can still see it's talking about the solar eclipse. Solar eclipse, there are two types of eclipses, lunar and solar. In a solar eclipse, the moon lines up between the sun and Earth. The moon blocks sunlight from reaching part of the Earth. To people in that spot on Earth, it looks like the sun has gone dark. So you can see the picture up here. And then look at the diagram. It actually shows us what they're talking about. The moon gets between the Earth and the sun. So again, I'm going to stop because I'm learning new stuff now, and I have to make sure that I'm paying attention to that and that I remember. So I'm going to add my stop and jot. And my stop and jot says there are two types of eclipses, lunar and solar. And this way, when I'm going back and I'm maybe looking at some notes to write my own story, I'll remember that that was an important thing that I learned. Here's a new heading, Twinkle Twinkle. So we're going to be starting a new topic. We're not talking about the moon anymore. We're moving on. On a clear night, the sky is filled with tiny twinkling lights. These twinkling lights are stars. Stars are giant balls of burning gas, but since they are so far away, they look very small. Stars appear to twinkle because their light is bent back and forth as it travels through Earth's atmosphere. Here's another lingo word, atmosphere, the layer of gases that surrounds planets. I think I forgot to add, I did. So I told you about my lunar here, my lunar word that was adding to my lingo. I just forgot my stop and jot, so let me go back and do that. Okay, and then we will add for our word there, our lingo, atmosphere. Here we go. If you connect stars with imaginary lines, you might see shapes in the sky. These are constellations. The Greeks called this constellation Orion. They imagined Orion was a great hunter holding a club and a lion's pelt. You look up there, kind of hard to see, but there he is up there, the stars making a picture called a constellation. People have been looking for constellations since ancient times. Sailors used them to find their way across the seas. Storytellers made up tales about the people and animals they saw in the stars. This drawing of the constellation Orion was based on an illustration from Book of the Fixed Stars. The book was written by Islamic scientist and Al-Rahman al-Sufi in the 10th century. In the Islamic world, this constellation was called the Giant. So I'm learning that in different parts of our world or different cultures that they view constellations a little bit differently. You can see the picture up here looks a little bit different than the picture down here. And this one over here says that the Greeks saw a great hunter holding a club and a lion's pelt. And he kind of looks like that, but he looks a little bit different than something that I would imagine. Okay, so here we go. I am seeing something new on this page. Down in the bottom, I am seeing a new text feature that we haven't seen in any of our read alouds the past couple of weeks. It's a tips page, or a tips list, really. So let's read and see what it says. The Big Dipper is one famous group of stars. We know that one. It's part of a constellation called Ursa Major. To some people, it looks like a ladle. That's like what you take soup with out of a pot. Others see a wagon, a cleaver, or a mother bear and her 3 cubs. What do you see up there? A little hard to see. I see the ladle. Kind of looks like a big spoon. On this page, I see a map. Now, I know it doesn't look like a normal map to us because we're used to seeing states or countries or oceans or a map around the park or our neighborhood. This is a map of our night sky. This is a map of our constellations up here. It says up here, this star map shows constellations that can be seen from the southern half of Earth. The stars are connected by imaginary lines. A star map or app can help you find other constellations. So let's go back to our tips over here. So here it tells us that some stargazing tips. Choose a clear night, get away from the city lights, bring a blanket, lie back and get comfortable for the best view of the sky. So if you've ever gone out away from the city at night and you look up, like maybe you've gone to visit the mountains, you can see a ton of stars because all the city lights are not blocking them and make it easier for us to see them. But I want you right now to think if you have ever seen or used one of these constellation maps. And if you have, I would like you to pause and talk to somebody at home about the time that you remember using that. Or if you haven't ever used it, maybe what you would do if you were able to use it. So go ahead and pause and talk about that for a minute. Okay, so I remember that when I was little, we used to go out as a family and we would sit on a blanket like the stargazing tip said, and we had our map and our telescope and we would find these constellations. We loved learning about them when we were little and actually seeing them in the sky. It was really cool to find them, and the map really does help. All right, so here is one of those pages that we've talked about in the other books where the author is trying to keep you interested and adding some really cool things to the book. So this is something that I want you to remember that you can do in your writing too, okay? I will read them to you though, because I know you guys love the cool facts. 7 cool facts about space. If you look closely, binoculars help. Those are the things that you look through your eyes like this. You'll see that stars come in many colors: white, blue, yellow, orange, and red. That is cool. Number 2, enough space dust and rock fall to Earth each month to fill an Olympic-sized swimming pool. Look how big that pool is. They're saying that enough space dust and rock falls to fill a whole pool like that every year. Oh, every month. I was wrong. Number 3, Jupiter has 67 moons. Look at that. There we go. 67. That's crazy. Number 4, many stars are so far away that it takes millions of years for their light to reach Earth. Number 5, if you could drive to the sun, it would take 177 years. I don't think we have that long. Number 6, the universe is 13.8 billion years old. And number 7, have you spotted a light moving slowly across the sky, the night sky? If it's flashing, it's probably an airplane. If it's not, it's a satellite. And there's one of our lingo words to help us learn more about the night sky. And it says a satellite is a man-made object that orbits the Earth and sends back information. So this is how we get information about what's going on out in the universe. And I added my lingo stop and jot so I remember that word. All right, on this page, I have covered up the heading. I want to read the page to you first, and I want you to listen to what I'm reading and what you see in the picture to see if you can come up with a good heading yourself. So listen very carefully and look at that picture. All right, there's one star you know very well. It's the sun. The sun and everything that orbits it is in the Milky Way galaxy. Galaxies are large groups of stars held together by gravity. There's that lingo word, another lingo word, gravity. On a very clear night, you might see part of the Milky Way. It looks like a wide, hazy strip stretching across the sky. Got caption here and a label here. Sorry, everything's backwards on my screen. There are 400 billion stars in the Milky Way. They form a giant spiral shape as shown in this illustration. And then here it says, you are here. Way down there. All right, so I want you to pause the video now and create your own heading for this page and share it with somebody who's at home. All right, so let's see if your heading was something close to what the author chose as the heading for these pages. A home for the sun. Were you close? Was yours something along those same lines? All right, we are going to continue reading a few pages without stopping now. Flying objects. Have you ever seen a shooting star? These streaks of light aren't really stars. They're meteors, small lumps of rock that fall toward Earth. They glow as they quickly burn up in Earth's atmosphere. Right up here, here's our caption. If you watch the sky for an hour on a clear night, you might see 2 or 3 meteors. Interesting. Okay, over here. Once in a while, you might also spot a bright star-like object with a long tail. That's a comet. Watch for many nights and you'll see that it travels slowly across the sky. See it right here in the picture, the photograph. Comets are big chunks of ice and dust that orbit the sun. They are as big as a few miles across. When the sun's heat melts some of the ice away, a tail forms. So that's interesting. The tail is actually the ice melting away. Spot the dots. Stars twinkle in the night sky, but you may see some dots that don't. These are planets in our solar system. Did you know you could sometimes see planets? They are brighter than most stars. Here's Jupiter. Do you see how bright Jupiter is up there? And then over here is Venus. Planets are large balls of rock, metal, or gas that orbit a star. Planets don't make their own light. They reflect light from the stars they orbit. I think I remember reading something about that in our planets book that we did a couple of weeks ago. Maybe later I'll go back and check that out and see if the information was the same. Besides Earth, 7 other planets orbit our sun. You can spot some with just your eyes. Venus is the brightest, then Jupiter. Mars looks red. You can see Mercury and Saturn too. Uranus and Neptune are so far away that you need a telescope to see them. So down here, these are the 8 planets of our solar system. Right down here. Again, we learned about those in our planets book. Alrighty. Who's out there? There are more than 300 billion trillion stars in space. That's a big number. About half of the stars have planets, and scientists say that one of them could be home to living things just like Earth. When you stare at the night sky, someone might be staring back. Since 2012, NASA's Curiosity rover has been exploring Mars for signs of past or current life. Okay. Oh, Here's another cool page that the author added to keep us interested. And just like we did in our first book, I think, maybe the second book, if you want to keep this a secret from your parents, tell them to leave the room, and you can pause at the end after I read all the questions and write down the ones that you want to quiz your parents on, or your brothers or sisters, and see what kind of things that they know about the night sky. Okay, so tell them to leave if you want to use this later. Okay. So, the moon is a ball of rock, fire, ice, or gas. The answer is rock. What color is the moon during a lunar eclipse? Bright white, pale yellow green, dark orange red, or light blue? Dark orange red. Number 3. What do people think that the constellation Ursa Major looks like? A ladle, a wagon, another bear, a mother bear and her cubs, or all of the above? All of those answers are right. Number 4. What shape is the Milky Way? A triangle, a spiral, a square, or a star? B, a spiral. Number 5, what can you do for better stargazing? Get away from the city lights, choose a clear night, or lie back on a blanket, or D, all of them. D, all of the above. Number 6, which planet do you need a telescope to spot? Neptune, Venus, Mars, or Jupiter? Neptune. Remember, Neptune and Uranus are the ones that we can't see without a telescope. And how many stars are there in space? 300 million, 300 billion, 300 trillion, or 300 billion trillion? 300 billion trillion. Oof. All right, so let me set this like this. And if you would like to write any of these down, go ahead and pause your video now. Okay. So let's keep going. We are almost done. On the last page, we have our last text feature, which is the glossary. Remember, the glossary tells us all those important words, what they mean, all that night sky lingo. Okay, so we have atmospheric, gravity, lunar, orbit, reflecting satellite, and we put all of those on Stop and Shots when we were reading our story already. Because if I'm going to write a book or my own story about the night sky, then I want to be able to go back and see those words that make me sound like an expert. And you should do that too. When you're doing your nonfiction writing, make sure that you're using expert words, the lingo that matches your what you're writing about. So now that we're finished, we always have to ask ourselves those questions of why did the author write the story? What does she want me to learn from it? And maybe think about some things that you did learn from this. And I want you to talk about that with somebody at home. When you turn the video off, tell them some of the answers to that question. Those questions. Why did the author write it? What did you learn? What was her purpose of doing this? And try and write a story yourself using some of the nonfiction text features that you saw and some of the other author's crafts that were in this story. So I will see you next week. Bye.